Hillbilly. And this is another AMA this week. It's been a jam-packed AMA week for me. This is my first time opening my doors to allowing other protocols to kind of use my platform and talk about their protocols and things that they're building. But I think it's important at my level to start doing that for individuals, especially people like Moose here, who've been in my community and been good actors and have committed a lot of time to chatting and being engaging in my platform. I think it's good that I give back and allow others to try and give you the best investment opportunities that you can. And so I've kind of started opening my doors to it. And I'm really excited for Moose's protocol because I can promise you all through the extensive chats I've had with him, he really does care. He's trying to do everything he can to make sure all risks are outlined. I really wouldn't bring things to you that I thought, were going to be one, blatant scams, or two, malicious. And Moose has been very forward in telling me every issue that he's walked into so far with building this protocol, and we've talked a lot about it. And so I'm really happy that he's able to come on here and speak. A couple weeks ago, we were going to do an AMA together, but we were unable to. Because I had some issues going on, so I kind of flaked out on him. So I'm happy that he had to be delayed on his launch so that I could actually get an AMA because he's got the big boy James Pelton AMA tomorrow. So this is good practice for him. And so we're just going to get through a lot of the talking points of his protocol, Adey's Advantage. Am I saying 80s right? Adey's?
Yeah, yeah, you're saying it right. Nailed it.
So I guess you can go ahead and introduce yourself and introduce the protocol a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I go by Moosefin on Discord, and that's where I spend most of my time fantasizing about becoming a millionaire in crypto. And a brief introduction, just how I got into cryptocurrency. Partway through the bull run early last year, and I got into DeFi close to the end of last year when would be close to the worst possible time to enter. And I got to expose myself to a lot of good communities and some other not so good communities. And I've been inspired to want to try and do something to provide a little more information for people out there. And I feel like running a protocol is a unique way to uh, keep people's attention and then maybe teach them how to be more aware of what they're investing in and what the actual moving parts are. So that's a brief description of me. And then the project itself, if anybody listening is familiar with Wealth Mountain, it's a protocol that launched a staking contract, I think about 15 weeks ago now. Anyhow, they ran a staking contract, and to break it down to a really simple summary, their focus was giving the investors the freedom to stake and unstake their investments. And the only thing they would need to take into consideration is the taxes that were applied at each of those stages. So many staking contracts that have been pumped out in the last year have had locking periods or outright locking altogether. And then they trickle out rewards to help give everybody a little more peace of mind as to the stability and the sustainability. But the unfortunate side effect of that is it really favors the people who enter first, and it puts a less attractive option on the people who enter last. So ours is modeled off of the Wealth Mountain, and then we've added some mechanics that should help it be more sustainable and give a little more consideration to the people who decide to join a little bit later. And I can get into the details of that, but that's the brief overview of the entire protocol and my motivation of working on it with Max.
Well, perfect. I think that was well said for anybody listening. I think what you were referring to as far as the staking contracts back in the day that were extremely Ponzi driven, even some Toonforce came out with it. I think that, and of course, this is not modeled off of that. I'm saying these are similar in the aspect of staking without the locking, but it would be like the mining contracts, correct? Like the
Yeah.
miners that people started, like baked beans and things like that. But this has no lockup. And it is super gamified for the users, right? So it's more of a instead of an investment, I would say, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, this almost seems like more of a GameFi situation, where you're gamifying this income stream of the longer you hold, the higher your returns are. And it's not so much focused on first in gets the biggest benefit, right? As far as I understand, is that right, Moose?
You're correct in making that statement. Yeah, I mean, every dollar that anybody is investing is given equal weight when they enter, which is different from some of the mining staking contracts that have existed. There's no algorithm to give someone who enters on the first minute a massive amount of miner units. Your funds go in as BUSD or WBNB, and they come out as BUSD or WBNB. And yeah, there's no multiplier, so it's everybody's tokens have equal weight, and then it's just a question of uh, executing a plan and doing so when there's still funds in the contract.
And so this is a non-token. There is no ERC. There is no ERC20 token with this. It is straight BUSD and WBNB. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So there's no tokenomics at play. You don't have to hold and wait for the token to go moonshot. This is strictly a game with your BUSD, WBNB, with a lot of cool mechanics at play, so that you can try and be as efficient and meta as possible to maximize your returns. And I think that as we go on with this conversation, you'll see that Moose is going to outline a lot of the risk very plainly for you. And I hope that you all will listen to that if you choose to invest. Because again, because there is, this is a game, there is an end, there is a beginning, middle, and end, right? And I think that's important to know what you're getting yourself into. And I think that's what Moose wants. From my conversation with him, he wants people to know that. He's not sitting here promising that this protocol is going to be the next big blockchain, or that the treasury is going to start investing in mining revenue. And it's kind of refreshing to hear that someone's like, listen, this is a protocol that's more gamified, and it's not gonna try and feed my family for the next 10 years. This is an experiment. It's one single contract. It's been audited. You've chosen to KYC, I'm pretty sure, and he's even chosen to KYC with me, if I so choose. And so I'm very happy for that, for my own community's sake. You guys know that I don't really like to put a lot of advertisements on my own community, but I feel like because Moose has been in my community for I'd say probably like 6 months now, and just
July.
consistently a
Yep.
good member of the community. There's absolutely no way that I wasn't going to try and assist him a little bit in his protocol's launch. So I guess we can get to some of the questions that I had wrote out that I thought about while we were talking about your protocol, if that's okay.
Absolutely. It sounds great.
All right, so I guess the first one is going to be, who is your dev?
So our dev was a contract assignment, and then it has been changed as a result of the findings from audits and refined to a point where it's quite easy to follow. It's quite easy for me to explain. My familiarity with it is very high. So I would invite anybody who has any questions about the contract to not be afraid to approach me. I'm going to get the ticket system working in our Discord. So if anybody might feel a little bit embarrassed about asking any particular question, not that I think anyone should, they can do it privately without us having to go into DMs, which can be its own risk that people really shouldn't expose themselves to.
And don't downplay yourself here, Moose. What he's saying is that they contracted a dev. There was some issues with some auditing, but after that, he's learned the contract inside and out. And of course, he claims not to be a dev, but he's learned enough about this contract that he feels quite confident in himself to be able to run it efficiently without any other help from the outside dev. And so I think that's pretty cool that he's taken that much time out of his own life to not only, he had to pay to get this developer to make this contract, but once it's done, he's been able to take it over and run it himself as what you would call the lead dev. But realistically, a lot of things in DeFi are actually moving into external dev work. It's quite common and honestly it's quite safe that way. Actually, in my opinion, I would rather contract dev work 10 out of 10 times because trying to find a dev that is not trying to put back doors in your code, that's working with you constantly and putting a veil over your eyes and stealing from you all the while happens so frequently, you just don't even understand. It happens all the time in this space. So it's good to hear that is what's going on. And then who all is involved in your team?
So the team is Max and myself, and Max is the mastermind. He's the idea guy, and I'm more of the math and how to make it work guy. And between the two of us, we've had a lot of conversations over the last 2.5 months while we've been putting this contract together, and we're very happy with what we've got made. And yeah, like just to touch one more time on the contract point, I know you had given me a tip of the hat, and I appreciate it. And it is true, and just ways that I've ensured that both I'm safe and the community is safe is I have deployed the contract myself. I am in control of the website myself. So the points of failure really fall on me and Max alone. And that's just because we're the two owners of the multi-sig wallet. That's the owner wallet and the treasury wallet. And I'm the owner of the dev wallet. So there's no other points of entry. There's no other points of influence. And that's something that makes me very uh, happy and confident to share with everyone. And that's something that I was laser focused on over the last month after we reached a point where I was very happy with the product itself.
Yeah, I mean, when I took over Snowy Owl and Arctic Fox back in the early day, I had no idea about anything with contracts. And when I asked for the contracts from the dev, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was just a mod at the time with absolutely no knowledge in Solidity, other than like some brief Python coding and stuff. And when I took those over, you can imagine how nerve wracking it was because it was like, 7 contracts that had a $200,000 treasury that was just given to me with absolutely nothing in return. So I was nervous, right? It took me. I wish I had learned it more before I took it over, because there were some things that I probably could have done better. But it's quite nice to know that nobody can screw you over, and if you know that you have good intentions, it's so much more comfortable to be in that position than having someone else in control of your contracts. It always sucks to have someone else when you're the face of it, or you're the one that created it, or that you've put yourself behind it, and someone else is in the background with the keys. It's very nerve wracking.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
And the next one I have for you is so this has already kind of been touched on by earlier, but a lot of these mining contracts, a lot of some of the other staking contracts is really focused on first in gets to win and last in is pretty much the loser. What do you think about that comparatively to your staking contract?
So I do think there's value add in getting first in. It gives you a longer and likely safer projected planned space. And by that, I mean the way the rewards are structured, the contract is not going to last 365 days. I think if it does, it will be extremely successful, obviously. But as time goes on, the contract will become less stable. And by that, I just mean the contract health. So the intent for us is to try and give everybody an accurate assessment of contract health from start to finish. And as we get closer to the end of contract life, that's when it will be obvious to anybody who chooses to look and um, check the contract themselves with our guidance or be engaged in our Discord group. Um, it will be obvious to anybody that now is maybe not the best time to invest. So there's still the element of being the last one in is not good, but we're not going to be trying to put a cloak over that when it's becoming more obvious.
Sure.
So,
And I got to stop
um,
you right there, Moose. I got to tell you that Max has entered. I'm going to bring him on, okay?
oh, beautiful.
Max, how are you? We just started. We're only about 14 minutes in, so we just started some questions. Nice to meet you. We have not had the pleasure of speaking yet. Welcome to the live stream. How are you? Max, are you there? Maybe he doesn't know that he's in.
he might be getting his mic set up, so we
Okay.
can
So
continue till we hear back.
I guess the next big question for you, Moose, is what are the risks? What do you see as the biggest risk for an investor when they're getting in? What should they know? What should be apparent?
Yes, sure. So I think the most important thing for anybody investing in any staking contract, including ours, is your risk when you're doing an investment into a staking contract is you lose 100% of what you put in. And the way you would do that is if you invest and you set it and forget it. So these staking contracts are not set it and forget it. It's put your money in and watch the contract and do everything in your power to inform yourself of how many rewards are out there, how much others, the community, can collect, and their sentiment. So um, other mining contracts require you to touch the contract every day and compound your gains, compound your gains. This doesn't require you to do any contract interaction. It just requires you to come in with a plan, understand what you're going to have in 20 days, what you're going to have in 30 days, what you're going to have in 40 days. We have charts that show all the taxes paid in and out and what you could make in those periods. It's on the yield tab of our white paper. And I'm hoping that people on Discord and anybody who invests will look at that because it's a really good way to formulate a plan. And then you have to take your gains, withdraw your rewards, and unstake before the contract goes to zero. So the risk is if you don't do those last two steps before the contract goes to zero, you lose your money, which is unpleasant.
It is, but naturally, it does have. It's just a really cool experiment because it's going to be a situation where it's like all of these mining contracts and staking contracts, but without the fluff and with more transparency. So people can act on what's actually happening on the contract rather than guesswork and just hoping that the contract continues to get hype. That really becomes a situation where people are able to make informed decisions, regardless if they're good or bad or emotionally based. In that sense, that you're able to see everything that's happening with the contract and the health of it. Should you put more money in? Is it becoming a dangerous level? So, like you said, it will eventually have an end. No way do you think it'll go 365 days. What's going to happen? Nobody knows. But it's a really cool experiment, and I commend you on making this as transparent as possible. It's not easy to sell transparency. Trust me, I know. It is a difficult thing. It's not the marketable thing to do, but it is the right thing to do. So I commend you for that. And I don't know if Max, are you here yet? Have you got your mic settled? Not yet. Okay, we'll keep rolling. What made you and Max want to launch this protocol? What was the behind the scenes? What made you spark up? I want to make a staking contract, right?
Sure. Well, Max and I launched a staking contract 3 or 4 days after Luna crashed, and we didn't have a huge turnout, as you could imagine, but we did get a lot of positivity in that community. And we ran it more or less the same as we're trying to run this, with just trying to be honest with people, trying to inform people on how mining contracts work and how ours was different. And because we launched when we did and it didn't get the kind of reception that we would have hoped for, we kind of wanted to try and do it right and take our lessons learned and put something together that was a little bit more unique and a little bit more customized by us and what we want to offer, but also maybe recapture what we were after on the first go through. But I feel like it's almost as responsible for what we've put together now as myself and Max. It's like a third team member.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, the reason we specifically made this protocol, when I'm saying that it was inspired by Wealth Mountain, that's not a plug. That's a fact. What they did in the fact of flipping a staking contract upside down, whether it worked out well for you if you decided to invest in them or not, it's really, I think, a cool spin. Giving everybody the ability to put their money in and take it out and have definite rules of exactly what they have to pay in the form of tax when they make those decisions, because it gives all the control to the community, which we both thought, wow, what a great idea.
That's what DeFi is really about, right? And DeFi is hard to work in a vacuum, or it's hard to see without some level of decentralization. But it's really cool to see these proof of concepts in DeFi where it really is community driven at all aspects, right? Like I live in my world of and my career. I feel like I add a bit of a centralized approach to my protocols because it feels like a necessity. But it's really cool to see proof of concepts coming into DeFi where there is, true decentralization, truly up to the community. How do they respond, and how does the masses respond to this contract? So it's a really cool thing.
I think
Thanks.
I'm here now, guys.
Yeah, we can hear you, Max.
Max, how
Okay.
are you, man? Nice to meet you.
I'm very, very good. I'm deeply sorry for not able to get in earlier. I
Oh,
was,
it's
No,
perfectly
no
fine,
need
man.
to apologize. It's all
okay.
good.
Good to
Yeah,
hear
no,
that.
no,
So
it's okay. Moose was carrying it for you, man. No worries.
he's always like that. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, man.
Um,
He's a
okay.
great speaker.
I've been a follower of yours for a while, and I've always been watching. And I think it's a pleasure to finally be here.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm happy to have you. If you want to, go ahead and give your introduction, as the people may want to know who Max the Creator is, kind of your involvement in DeFi thus far, and your story in DeFi before you came here.
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah,
Okay.
just do a lighthearted one. You don't have to go into detail. All of us have a long history here.
Okay, I have. Let me start by saying that I have a background of computer engineering back in the days. So over the years, I've always been very fascinating about not just crypto, but an alternative way of transaction. So I've been around for a while, and my story about DeFi is kind of slow but steady. Okay, back in the days around 2012, there was a website called Look at Bitcoin. So what we used to do on Local Bitcoin is to just trade between man to man. So what Local Bitcoin used to do is to have like an escrow between buyer and seller. So they only deal in Bitcoin then. So what we do is, for example, you travel to another country, there is no way to exchange your crypto, but you need some cash. You go there, you trade that for cash, or maybe you need cash as well. You trade what you have for cash, or you buy as well on the platform. So nothing more than that for about eight 8 years. So around 2021, early 2021, I've been hearing about DeFi, people making money. You buy crypto worth of $100 and you're able to sell it for $5,000. Nothing more than that. So, but I always look at it as a gamble. That's not possible. I know more about crypto. I know the beginning of Bitcoin. For somebody to be telling me that within a month or two, I'll be able to times 10 of my money. But later in 2021, I started investing. And I was like, okay, it's not that bad. Maybe we could do something here. So I lose some money, I make some money. That was about it until around earlier this year. Early this year, I finally start putting some ideas together. And while I was doing that, I think my idea was not, I mean, my experience was not enough. I need somebody who understands the other part of the business in order for us to collaborate. So that is how I got to know about Moose. And he was a community manager and he was good at it. So what I was good at, still good at, maybe, is to work on the tokenomics and designing. So I put that forward to him where I was, and he was able to put the community together, and we're able to launch our first product. So, like he said, we launched at a very, very wrong time. But the good thing that I am proud of personally was to be able to deliver on all core promise that we stated in our white paper to every investor, and everybody was satisfied. So in order to do more, I think from the experience we've gathered as an investor, as uh, a protocol owners, we think we can be better and be able to give something far better than what we did before. And that is how we got to this present uh, protocol that we are pushing presently. And like he said, for me, even though Wealth Mountain have some yeah, we take some things from them, but I must say that it wasn't really related. M- The idea that was mainly taken from them was the idea of you investing and you're able to take your money back whenever you like. And I always, whenever we talk about this project, I always make it known very well to us internally that this is a game. Depends on how everybody played it. You make money if you are not greedy, and you can be greedy and still make money. Everything depends on the chance, and everything depends on your strategy. So I do not like to state it out that this is how it should be played, but we have the white paper for everybody to go over and study, and how you play with depends on how much you make from it.
Well, Max, that was a amazing intro. You must really be a crypto OG if you were trading Bitcoin peer to peer. I remember the days when that was the case, which I wish I had bought a little bit more at that time. But it's cool to hear your story, man. And I think you share the same sentiment as Moose, that you're just trying to create protocols with extremely rigid rule sets, and then adhere to those rule sets and allow it to be transparent for the community. And I think that's very special in its own right. It may not, again, it may not be the Safus of the world. We're not Brian Legends. We're not offering the world, but you are able to offer protocols that you can deliver on, and so that's really cool. And again, I think it's a really good attribute to both of you all, that you have a previous protocol that you had made right on, and that had concluded by giving all promises back to investors. It's not easy to do, trust me. So far, I've given back $1 million from my own protocol from making promises
Wow.
And cashing it back. Moose can probably tell you, I'm like the welfare at DeFi,
Jesus.
No,
where I
no,
give it where
I
I give
must
it back to the users.
I must say this. I invested about 30K into your protocol.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, Max, you're a whale, huh? Hello, nice to meet you.
Nah.
Well,
Uh,
hopefully your position's doing okay. I know that our prices are down, but again, this isn't about Walrus. I want to make sure that we keep focus on you all. But it's great to meet you, and what an awesome
Thank you.
story. Thank you for sharing it. Um, so I'm going to continue where I left off, Max, and both you and Moose can switch back and forth on if you want to answer the next couple questions in succession.
Okay.
So the next question I have for you is, how do you see the lifespan of this protocol playing out?
Yeah. So the do you mind going to the yield tab really
Sure.
quick on the white paper?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So keep in mind this graphic and everything inside the white paper is not financial advice, but just based on the way all of the Wealth Mountain or Wealth Mountain forks that have come and gone over the last 2 months, that color coding is kind of an indication of the most likely risk level that you'll be facing. And depending on what your yield of your staking contract is, that could go more red or more green on those days, on those amount of days staked, purely dependent on what your yield is. So our yield is significantly lower than what Wealth Mountain did, but not so much so that it's unattractive. So if everything was equal in the world, we would probably last about 20% longer than Wealth Mountain did. However, every protocol gets massive adoption at different times and in different life cycle stages within the contract health. So if a contract has a massive adoption right off the go, then it has probably a lower life cycle than one that has more steady and constant growth as the first 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks come. So that image is a good estimation. Again, not financial advice, but it kind of shows where it's more likely that there's a high risk involved with waiting that long with your stake. I think that's the best I could answer that question.
No, it's yeah. I think that definitely answers it. Now, will these color is this color scale going to adhere to the actual website and the UI for allowing users to know where the risk level is at based on days, or does it use other metrics and allow you to see different risk levels?
So that chart that you're looking at right now, that is on a very individual basis. How we're going to present the data on our Discord is going to be more data driven. So what I'm planning to do is show what the total compound and withdrawal transactions are on a daily basis. I'm not going to update the chart every day, but I'm personally going to be tracking it every day, and then I'll probably be updating the Discord maybe 3 times a week. I don't want to commit to every day just because it's important that people also learn how to look at this themselves, and that's something I'm going to be um, providing information on in Discord, because the way our read contract works is if you go into BSC scan and you click on the read contract of our contract, you can pull up a wealth of information and inform yourself. And then you don't need to trust what I put in Discord. What I put in Discord is going to be true and it's going to be data, but I'm really trying to push the narrative that people look for themselves and learn how to be informed without any potential um, manipulation from outside parties. So BSC Scan, Etherscan, Snowtrace One IO, those places are absolutely packed with information that people don't look at, and that's where you're really going to get to a true representation of any contract's health, not just ours. So that's my motivation, and I'm going to try and communicate in that way. So it won't be color coding, it won't be something like that. That's kind of just for people to wrap their head around what they can gain. It's more a highlight of how much money you can make if your plan is 40 days, 60 days, 70 days. But you would have to apply that picture and that risk profile against where the contract sits as you decide to enter.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, reading the chain is absolutely so essential. When I started reading actual snow trace and BSC scan, and doing transactions and looking through them, understanding contracts, reading contracts, and writing contracts that I do 24/7 now, like it's second nature. I'm not some college graduate, super educated person, and if I can learn it, I can truly believe that anyone that takes the time to do it could learn it. So I highly recommend exactly what he's saying. Maybe start with this protocol and understand how the dynamics are at play, understand what the variables are in the contract, and how to read different stats in the actual read contract. And maybe Moose can help you with that. But it's super essential if you're going to stay in DeFi right now, especially with how early we are. There's just not a lot of tools out there that can accurately display information better than the blockchain and these scan websites can do. So, yeah, I completely agree with you. But I think it's a good. It almost feels like when I'm looking at this chart. Have you ever played that gambling game? And maybe I'm just a degen. There's a game called Crash, and what you do is you put money in, and the multiplier goes up, and then you have to cash out before the multiplier stops. And if you don't, then you lose all of your money. Um, Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen with this, but it's almost like it's a waiting game of gamifying it, right? Before you either compound because you're seeing enough health in the staking contract, or you let it keep going, or you take it out because you see something maybe other people don't, or you're just impatient and you take the taxes. But whatever it is, it's a pretty fun game for sure. I'm enjoying. I'm probably going to put some money into this, but I know risk and risk
thirty
management, and
thousand dollars, or maybe slightly less.
maybe slightly less than $30,000. I'll be honest. I wasn't doing peer-to-peer transactions with Bitcoin, so maybe I'm not to that status yet. But Yeah, so it's, but I'll be putting some money in that I can afford to lose, of course, because
Yeah, that's important.
I actually adhere to that, and so far I've never been destroyed. Right, like I keep everything in stables, other than stuff I'm like I know I could lose this and be comfortable with it, and I've never been hurt, like personally.
No, you know it was fun on
Good for
your
you.
on your protocol. There are a
Oh
lot you can do with your money. We have farming, we have boardroom, you have many things that you can play with. So
yeah,
that's what makes the difference.
yeah, it really is engaging. Two Forks, that's one of the things that I loved about it, the GameFi aspect of it. Of, well, do you want to go here, or is this a more optimal strat, or just trying to figure your own way out?
Yeah,
Sadly, the most of the Two Forks really work on sentiment. And if there's liquidity in the market, and when you have a hyperinflationary token, it's very difficult when there is not enough to meet that demand.
yeah,
So a lot of people have had to change. But the really cool thing about your model is it doesn't have a token. It doesn't really rely on that. It's not the same dynamics of a tune fork. So it's an interesting concept.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, let's get to the next one. Let's see, what do we have next? All right, so what do referral codes do for me? And by that I mean if a user uses his referral code, his or her, and they get users to use that referral code, what would they receive?
Okay,
Sure.
before moves we uh, go deep into that, I want to say something, and this is for investors. One of the things that we consider while putting together the tokenomics was to put the investors first. And doing so means we, as the protocol owners and the content creators, we are not the primary target for satisfaction. So what we do is to make sure that when it comes to earnings, if investor doesn't make money, we will not make money as well. Referral link will not be able to generate any income as well. Only when they were able to pick their own money that we will have something, a little bit of that for ourselves and for the referrals as well. And that comes from consideration of investors, which I think in most cases have always been the last to consider in most protocols. So for us, we want to make sure that we concentrate on people that matters, people that invested, because without the investors, protocol, no matter how good product can be, if nobody patronizes the protocol, I mean the product, it is nothing. So we think if you come and you invest the money, you should be our priority. You should be satisfied first before either ourselves or the 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 referrals, which they are important as well. Content creators are important in order to spread the word and in order to make sure that they create awareness around what we put forward. But at the same time, we believe strongly in any of our protocols that the number one target of satisfaction should be towards the investors, and that is what we concentrated on this one. So most you can go ahead.
Yeah, very well said. I don't even know if I can add to that. But I will just touch on the math side of it so people can get a slightly more clear picture. But the overall idea is certainly just as Max described it. So if you invest $100, for example, the staking tax is 10%, and that goes to the treasury. So you would have $90 worth of position that would be um, represented by the website and by your stake on BSC scan if that's how you choose to look it up. You would also get access to a 3% of your initial deposit referral bonus. So suppose you use my reference link, you would get $3 upfront, and it would be available for you to either stake, meaning add to your $90, or you could take it out and collect it. So based on your decision, you could end up having $93 of position, having only put in $90 that should have been position, or you could have $90 worth of position with only $87 invested, plus the 10 that you put in for the tax. So the reference link pays the investor immediately, but it doesn't pay the reference link supplier until you accumulate rewards and either withdraw or compound it. And then what would happen is, sorry, only if you withdraw it. So then what would happen is when you, let's say you put it in and you leave it there for 50 days, and you can take out $100 of compounded gain, accumulated gains. You would get 95% and they would get 5%. So the reference link supplier only gets money after the customer gets money, which I think is awesome.
It's a little bit more ethical than the current ones like you see in Drip Farm and things like that. And clearly, this is not the same as Drip Farm at all. I'm just making a reference. That's the biggest referral link situation I've ever seen in DeFi. So I always like to point that out when I see referral codes. I like to at least just get the owner's thoughts and opinions on it, because I think that speaks volumes. The next question is, and I know that we talked about this, Moose, a little bit, so I'm going to rephrase the question just a little bit, is what's the timeline of launching, and then any other upcoming metrics or things to look out for as someone that wants to invest in your protocol? What do you have planned?
Sure. We are launching tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST. So December 10th, 2 p.m. EST. And we just need to change the referenced contract that's within the website, and to allow people to invest in the launch contract. And when we do that, we're going to take off the launching soon banner that's blocking half of the deposit button on the website. And I've done a practice update of the website, and I anticipate no issues. It's going to be a very smooth, maybe 1-2 minute delay just for the website to load up. I've got some community members that I've asked to do a little bit of $1, $2 testing just to make sure all the buttons work. They work perfectly fine for me. They work perfectly fine for Max, but there's no harm in doing some last minute testing now that we've got the audit cleared up and our KYCs are in processing. The more people who are tinkering with it, the more likely we don't face an issue after the fact. I've also done all the transactions on BSC Scan, and I've put together a tutorial of exactly how to do every single step using BSC Scan. So in the absolute catastrophic event that the website doesn't work, anybody can invest with that information directly on the BSC Scan. It's much better to have the website working because we have warnings and extra information that we offer when you click on, for example, unstake, when you still have some accumulated rewards that haven't been collected. And that's something that's coded into the website, but isn't possible on the BSC Scan transaction. So I anticipate no issues, but that's when we're launching. And then as far as future goes, my future focus is to just get this contract as much legs as it can and give as many people within it as much information and education as possible. And if we happen to decide to make another contract or project in the future, maybe people like the way we ran this one and they decide to come with us again. But I'm going to be solely focused on this protocol and this community until it's done, basically.
I just want to add a little bit to that. Okay, I think what can investors look forward to? Okay, the most important thing for me is to do right by investors. They are the most important, and in this DeFi environment, you can't hide. And if you want to do more, you have to make sure that you show an example of that. In the previous protocol, if we didn't do what was right, we will not be able to invite all our members in the community over into this one. That means we were able to do the best we can do, and they could see it. And we are so confident in our ability and being able to do right by all possibilities. So for me, on this one, there is one thing I want people to look forward to. we've seen protocols, we've seen projects like this come and go. They make promises and they deliver almost nothing. Our plan is to deliver exactly what we said. For example, in order to make sure the protocol is balanced, stable, we have big plan towards the treasury. And one of the things that we have to do in order to demonstrate that is to make sure that we do not change our treasury address so everybody can see what is up, whatever we are doing with the funds we have in the treasury. And one of the things that we have done already is to make sure that our treasury wallet is backed up with multi-sig. So if uh, we are not in agreement of doing anything, we will not be able to do it. So that's number one. And the other thing is, what do we do with it? The primary objective on that is to make sure that we are able to stabilize the protocol. And if we have any other thing that we have as a suggestion, we will not just be alone to decide on that. It will be the platform, the the investors' decision. So my vote will stand as one among maybe 5,000 people, maybe 100 people, maybe 1,000 people. So that means that it is whatever the investors decide that will be done. So that is important because why do we keep a very large amount of treasury in the first place? So that is what I want people to look forward to and to see how we are able to use that advantage for the benefit of the protocol. Thank you.
And that was actually actually the next question is, as the treasury grows, what do investors what should investors expect you to be using that treasury for? Are you going to be reinvesting it for the longevity of the staking contract? Are you going to be investing it? Do you all take compensation from that? Like what all does the treasury entail?
Th-
So,
Thank you.
Max,
Go
I'll
ahead.
cover this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the Treasury, we do have it on our white paper what the planned use is, and it's hard to on a white paper necessarily um, stress the weight of each of those sections that it shows in the Treasury, but the highest weight in our consideration is to use it for helping the Treasury, helping the contract TVL if it looks like it's in a negative trend. Um, so if we feel that investments have kind of slowed down and there's maybe a little lost faith in where it's going, we use some of the Treasury and put it back into the contract, not taking any position as the Treasury, but it's essentially like a tax back to the folks who are invested in the contract. And the way that works is kind of taking inspiration from a Tomb Fort boardroom debt phase. So, just for example, if we took $5,000 from the Treasury and put it into the contract would have a massive surge of $5,000. There'd be more money for people to withdraw their accumulated rewards. There'd be more money for people to elect to unstake and exit and complete their plan. But in exchange, the unstake tax gets manually switched from 8% unstake tax up to 20%. And that would be put
What was
back
the condition
down.
for that? I'm sorry. What was the condition for that? For moving from 8% unstaked to 20%?
So when the Treasury puts money into the contract,
Uh,
then it might not be the perfect terminology, but the
no, I
contract
get what
is in debt to the Treasury for $5,000. We would make announcements in our Discord saying
you're saying. Okay.
we just put $5,000 from the Treasury into the contract. Unstake um, tax has now moved up to 20%,
So
and
if the treasury is used to bolster the staking contract for longevity, it comes at the added cost of increasing the unstaked fee by 12% up to 20%, which would, that would go on until that debt is paid. AKA,
sure.
if you put in 5,000, it would stay at 20% until 5,000 in unstaked fees were paid back to the treasury. Correct?
Exactly.
Not just unstake fees. Also, if anybody is doing a new entry, they also put 10%
Yeah.
for investment in. So just as long as Treasury gets back up to what it was before, then we put it back to 8%. And this is one of the gamify mechanisms that we're putting in, and it's to, I think, use the Treasury in a way that serves the community best. I don't anticipate it being done probably more than 3 or 4 times, but I don't want anybody to think that we're going to shy away from it. I don't think it's beneficial to do if you're in like um, the final hours of a contract. I think that's when the Treasury would be better used for. I think it's the fourth one down. Yeah. So at end of contract life, when the contract goes to zero, um, there will be people who did not ROI, and those are the people who will be given consideration uh, for equal compensation across all individuals who lost funds. So the Treasury would be redistributed to all the people who put in a submission similar to what Wealth Mountain did, but we won't be holding the funds for any prolonged period of time. We're just going to split it up amongst all the people who say, hey, I didn't make my money I put back in yet. And whatever it works out to, it might be everybody gets a 10% of their ROI back, might be 20%. It would really depend on the size of the treasury in comparison to the size of all the um, verified uh, entries into saying, hey, I didn't make money. And as far as tracking it, it won't take us very long to process through everybody because the contract requires 3, 4, 5, 6 contract interactions from start to finish. It's not like we're going to be siphoning through 150, 250 transactions to understand each person's position and what they made and what they didn't make.
Hmm.
So those are the two biggest uses of the treasury. Um, Cost of um, advertising is something that we will take some funds out of because that is what drives a contract and a protocol to raise awareness. The last and lowest priority use of the treasury is that way for my personal and Max's agreement that a treasury should not be used by a protocol to quote unquote diversify, which is something that a lot of people uh, say to try and make it sound really fun. But what that really breaks down to is protocols. I'm not trying to be a combative person right now, but it's protocols gambling with their community's money, and
Oh,
they can win a whole bunch of money, and that would be fantastic. But they could also lose all their money, and then those people didn't agree to that risk. Those people didn't sign up for that. So it's really great if things are going up, but it's, in my opinion, very irresponsible if you don't know that things are going to be going up.
yeah, and
And
just in reference, I actually share the same sentiment. We actually didn't spend for Frozen Walrus Treasury. We've only recently opened to new Treasury investments as it was getting so depleted that it was just, I mean, within 1% of what it used to be. But when we had over $400,000 in stables, we didn't invest it anywhere other than I think Great Finance with less than 1% of our total. Because I feel the same. I wanted to be able to make sure that if anything came up that required compensation to investors, or just anything that required investor input, that was really their funds, right? And I think you share that sentiment. So that's really good to hear because that's what a treasury is. If you're diversifying, getting a bunch of different shit, then you're liable to eventually lose, right? No trader's 100%, and if you're in worse position because you try to trade that treasury, then eventually you lose out somewhere unless you're just some savant. But I agree with that. Treasuries are meant to be held in some type of stable, so that it is there for the community when things arise. Um, let's see. I think other than I would love to know just if you want to tell people that are listening, the company that audited you, because I know you have an audit. I know it's visible. What was the company's name?
crypto security.
Crypto Security. And then you are not currently doxed, but you are working on a KYC. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we are getting KYC'd by Encrypto Security and CoinSalt, and it sounds like I'm also going to be getting KYC'd by you.
Yeah.
So those are our plans. We just want to have an established record of our KYC out there. And the primary motive of that is because we do have that one manual lever within the contract. So the owner contract can move the unstaked tax from 8 to 20% and back. And it requires both me and Max to sign the signature. But I think any contract that has a manual lever, it's only reasonable for them to provide KYC as an additional peace of mind to the investor so that there's no concern of malicious behavior.
Awesome. And guys, if you didn't know, they are launching tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. The Discord link is in the description. The white paper is in the description. The audit is in the description. The Discord is in the description. So if you are interested in investing, pop on over. If you're watching this later, then still all of that stuff will be very valid. Make sure that you read the white paper before doing anything, and ask questions to Moose and Max, who are more than helpful and available in Discord. So they have a big AMA tomorrow with James Pelton. I think you guys both did a fantastic job today here. I know I'm a bit of a talker, so maybe I helped you through it. Hopefully, James can also give you some good questions. I've had an Ask Me Anything with James, and he did an amazing job with me. So I think that it'll be the same for you all. But do you all have any ending statements before we end the stream here?
I do want to thank you for just taking the time to talk to me in the past leading up to this launch. I know I've been kind of just keeping you informed because I'm pretty proud of what we've put together, but also just the opportunity to connect with your community and keep them aware of what's going on. It's really nice to have that support from you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
and
it.
if everybody wants to know, this is not a paid Ask Me Anything. I'm not being paid to say any of this. This is on my own accord. This isn't a sponsored stream or anything. I'm doing this purely because Moose has been an amazing community member, and I'm just trying to show some support. So, just want to make that clear.
So
Okay.
actually, I did remember one thing. We are doing a draw for a couple dollars as a prize. Now, there's 3 people viewing right now, so maybe
That's
we
true.
should mention this
What's the
earlier.
uh, what's the couple? Well, we didn't have a lot of questions, but I should have announced that. Damn it, I forgot.
It's okay. It's okay.
Maybe we can do it through your Discord, where if they join your Discord, and maybe we can get together after this and maybe make it something from my Discord to join your Discord and win some money. Would that be okay?
That sounds great. That sounds great.
I think so because you all have launch tomorrow. Let's try and fill up your Discord with some members that are interested in the protocol, and then me and you can talk about it after we get off the stream. Max, do you have any final statements?
Yeah, I just want to thank you as well because Moose has been feeding me with all the advice and all the encouragement you've been giving to us. So I really want to thank you for that. Not many people will give their platform like this, an awesome platform for free
Yeah,
and
yeah,
for us to be able to express ourselves. So thank you and thank you again.
yeah, man.
Um, I just want to add to that all our documents has been given already for KYC. We're just waiting for them to give us the badge, nothing more. So
Awesome.
thank you very much again, and let me say it's game time.
All right, guys. Well, get ready for the launch tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. And what time is the AMA with James Pelton, Moose?
12 p.m. Eastern.
12 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. If you want to tune in before the launch, usually his AMAs go strictly around 50 minutes to an hour. So I highly recommend to go check it out. There will be a lot of people in there probably asking questions. Most of them have probably been answered here, but he has a lot more eyes on him. So be sure to tune into that. And again, there will be some kind of giveaway that me and Moose are going to do for you all for anybody that wants to move over into their Discord, and we'll figure that out after this stream. So thank you guys for watching, and if we end it in 10 seconds, we are right on the hour mark, which sounds pretty cool. So we are going to end right at that metric. And here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Thank you.